great day. It's a great day for laudanum, and it's a great day for arsenic. But today we're not going to talk about either of those. We're going to talk about a Greek myth, and it's the Greek myth of Persephone and Demeter and Zeus. Zeus always comes into it, and Hades almost always comes into it as well. So the story begins with Zeus, who was a bit of a manslag. He was a bit of a whore, and he created a great many illegitimate children. But in this case, we're going to be talking about Persephone and her mother Demeter. And so Persephone was the child of Demeter and Zeus, and she was the most upbeat and cheerful of all of their children. And wherever she went, flowers bloomed, birds sang, and everything sprung into life. She was the epitome of spring. So everything was perfect. And just as a side note, Demeter was the goddess of what I guess we would now call harvest. So, the harvest festival where you go to church and you give a tin of sweet corn and hope for the best. And there's all sorts of, people getting bread and weaving it into stupid shapes and all that shit. But anyway, that was the job of Demeter in ancient Greece. So it wasn't only noted by the other guys in ancient Greece that Persephone was absolutely stunning. It was noted by Hades. And Hades, as everybody knows, is the god of the underworld. And the underworld in ancient Greece was not hell, as I don't want to go into this. I don't know what this random stain is. So that's really distracting me now. Hades was not the god of hell. He was the god of the underworld. So when you died, like it or not, however you behaved during your life, you ended up in the underworld. And it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad. And so Hades had a plan. And his plan was that he was going to kidnap Persephone and he was going to bring her to the underworld because he was infatuated with her. And I've seen pictures and I can understand where he was coming from. So his plan was to plant a flower that she would pick while she was, divvying around, picking flowers, sniffing them, sticking them in her hair, what have you. And she took the bait. So she picked this flower, this beautiful flower, and unfortunately it was a flower that Hades had planted for her. And so she picks this flower, and Hades comes and scoops her up. And before I go any further, this plan was actually given the okay by Zeus. Zeus is the god of everything. His brother rules the sea, his other brother rules the underworld, but he is in charge of pretty much everything that goes on the land. So Hades is given the okay to go up from the underworld, kidnap Persephone, and take her down to the underworld. I don't really get why, but that's how it went. And so Hades comes up in his chariot and picks up Persephone and takes her down to the underworld. And to begin with, she's she's quite fucked off. She's quite fucked off about this whole situation, and you would be, wouldn't you? And Demeter is absolutely gobsmacked and head fucked by the whole thing, and that's completely understandable. Your daughter is kidnapped by the king of the underworld, and she's grieving. She's grieving really hard. So Persephone goes down to the underworld. She's not happy about it. Would you be? But she kind of gets used to it. She kind of gets like, well, this is my life now, so let's make the most of it. So she wanders around, and underworldy flowers grow, and she kind of gets to know people. They start to talk to her about their life stories, about when they were living their lives in the world above the underworld. And so she starts to kind of form relationships with the unfortunate dead. But Demeter is really fucked off. Really, really fucked off. And Demeter is the goddess of, what we would call harvest. So she's so fucked off that she stops crops growing, all the livestock stop they stop living, and everything dies. Everything that keeps humans alive basically just dies. And so the people stop going to the temples, they stop giving, they stop revering Zeus and thinking that he's, a great guy, because everything's going to shit. And eventually he starts to notice this. And so Demeter goes to him and says, I really, really need my daughter back, because I'm really, really fucking depressed about this. And so, because nobody's paying him the attention that he's used to, he says, okay, all right, you go down to the underworld and you talk to Hades, and if you can do a deal with him, I'm sure he'll be willing to come to some sort of arrangement where you can get Persephone back. And so off she goes. She goes down to the underworld, and she doesn't really have to say much. It's kind of obvious what the situation is. She wants Persephone back. She wants her daughter back. And Hades is sitting there in his throne, and there isn't much eye contact. There isn't much conversation, but he looks at her like this and says, okay, you can have your daughter back. But it's a long journey back from the underworld, and why doesn't she have a little bit of a snack just to keep her energy levels up? Because it's a long way. It's a trek from the underworld to the land of the living. And so she says, yeah, that'd be good. And he offers her a bowl of pomegranate seeds. And juicy, beautiful looking pomegranate seeds. And we've all been there. So she picks out 6 pomegranate seeds and eats them. But what she doesn't know is what the fates know. And nothing is as it seems. And Hades is a bit of a trickster. And there is always some sort of, I can't think of the word. He's just a bit of a prick. There's always some sort of underlying bargain thing. And so she eats 6 of the pomegranate seeds, and then off she trots back to the land of the living, gives her mum a big hug, and everything seems perfect. And then the fates come down from Olympus and tell her them that actually there's a bit of a clause in the agreement where you've eaten 6 of the pomegranate seeds, and that means that 6 months of the year you're going to have to spend in the underworld, and the other 6 months of the year you spend in the land of the living. And they kind of get accustomed to this. So for 6 months of the year, Persephone goes around bringing joy and bountiful, harvesty, fruity stuff, and all the flowers grow, and all the trees bring fruit, and everything's fantastic. And for the other 6 months of the year, everything dies and everything's a bit shit. And so for those 6 months, that is what became winter. So she's in the land of the living for 6 months, and then for the other 6 months, she has to go back to the land of the dead with Hades. And her and Hades build up a kind of rapport, and the people of the land of the dead begin to develop more and more of a respect for her. And eventually, Hades convinces Persephone to be his wife. And eventually, Persephone becomes the queen of the underworld. And we now have the king and queen of the underworld. Hades is just a real, a real arsehole in many ways, but he's kind of offset by Persephone, who has a good heart, and she's willing to listen to people's stories, and she's willing to look after them, and she's basically she's a dude. She she looks after people in the land of the dead, and that really ends my first Greek tragedy, which isn't really a Greek tragedy because it all kind of ends all right. Demeter gets her daughter back for half the year, and for half the year, spring springs, and the people of the, I don't know what to call them really, the world, not the underworld, and not Olympus, just the people of the world, they get to have their things growing, things living, stuff working. They get to have that for 6 months of the year. And for the other 6 months of the year, that's winter. And we all, unless you're a bit strange, and I don't really want to talk to you, we have winter where everything dies off and you need to plan how you're going to survive the winter. And yeah, that's how I'm going to leave it, and I'm going to go back to drinking my laudanum. Good night.